the person that you fell in love with, the person that you decided to have kids with, the person that you were like, this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. Who was that person? And it switched with Kayla. She's like, wow, like I can't ask him to change because if he changes, I might not.
Welcome back. This is the Athletic Dad Podcast. I'm your host, CT, and this is where fitness and fatherhood meet. Today, we have my boy, Coach Storm Woerner, all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. Storm, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Great, beautiful day out there. Had a full day of training already and get to talk and meet with you. So can't complain.
Man, we've had thunderstorms for 6 days in Cleveland, and Storm just spun it around when we were off camera, spun the camera around 3 blocks from the beach. Really nice day out there in Jacksonville. So a beautiful day to be there in the gym. And he would probably rather be outside running or lunging outside, but instead he's here with us to drop some knowledge. So Storm, bro, last time we had a conversation that was recorded, it was 2001 on the Cutoffs and Coffee podcast, episode 24 of the Cutoffs and Coffee podcast. And I thought, what is the worst way that I could intro this show? And I decided that the worst way is by saying, hey, we haven't talked in 5 years. What have you been up to since then? And I know a lot has happened in life. So can you give us a quick rundown to kind of update people who don't know who you are, what's been going on and what you do?
Yeah. Well, whenever we first talked, we moved into this new facility, which is beautiful. After that, I had my first daughter, or our first child. And then a couple of years later, had a second one. And so running the business, training, not much has changed in that aspect of running the business and training, but a lot has changed in the aspect of moving houses and adding more humans into our family. So yeah.
Yeah. And how have you been handling the expansion of the family?
It's great, man. I love it. It's difficult. It's easy. It's fun. I mean, I say it's easy because it's so easy to love them. It's so easy to come home, and whenever they're out in the pool and I walk outside and both the kids are like rushing out of the pool and yelling daddy, and it's so easy to be there for your family, but it is difficult schedule wise, and it's always a lot of fun, a lot of difficulty with parenting, but also a fun challenge with parenting. So
For sure. And
yeah,
and
so it's
you like
all
challenges. You like challenges. We'll get into that in a second. When we last talked, your alarm was going off every day at 2:28 in the morning. I believe since then it's gotten earlier.
gotten earlier.
Talk
1:30.
talk me through your schedule these days.
1:30. So I wake up at 1:30. I get to the gym a little bit before 2, so around 1:50, and then I
And this
start.
is AM for anybody who needs context. This is not early afternoon. This is 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and then I start training. I start training around 2, and then I try and be done with my training by 4, and then my first clients walk in the door at 4:15.
And are these the same or similar people that you had in the
Same.
past coming in at that time? Because I do remember the first clients being like 4:15, 4:30.
Yep, same. And they've been with me for years, and we've gotten so close over the years, and we've added a couple new people to, that's a coveted hour, and all those individuals are so close together. Like this morning, I think I had 9 starting before 5 in the morning, and
Wow.
and they're all so fun and they're all friendly together, and the gym has brought them so close together that outside of here, because of the gym, everybody hangs out. And it just makes that first hour of training of the day so much fun. And it keeps you awake, that's for sure.
There is nothing worse, dude, than opening the gym and having 3 or 4 people come in who are just complaining the entire time. And I have not had many of them, but 15 years in person, you're going to get a couple of them. And I remember thinking, like, if I can just get to 6 a.m., if I could just get to 7 a.m. So having people come in with fire and energy is so great. What do you think it is about you, specifically as a coach, that has these people coming in consistently at a time like that?
That's a good question. They always say that I'm reliable. So they always say that they can count on me. I'm always here. I've never called off a day sick. I never late. And I try and keep the workouts fun. I'm trying to be engaging. I talk to them outside of the gym. I send them messages, write them cards, go out to lunches with them, go out to dinners with them, and invite them over. And I just feel like it's so much more than just training. You want to be a part of these individuals' lives as a whole. And whenever they can think of you more than just a trainer, I think that's whenever you've made it as far as being a successful trainer.
Totally. When they switch from this is the guy I train with to this is my friend, this is my family, these are my people. Yeah, that totally makes a huge difference. In my transition out now about 5 months ago since I've been in person, I was the most proud of and what we built in my last facility was our adult group that we had between 6 and 7 a.m. And now these, your crew's done hours before my people are even getting up. But I was very proud of the individuals that we had, the community that we created, and like you said, the family that we all became at that time in the morning. And when I left, we had a couple different coaches kind of try out that time and see who fit best. And recently we had another coach who's a good friend of mine get started in that group, and he reached out and he said, CT, I want to pick your brain on what you did to make that group what it was. And I told him first thing was he was doing right was asking that question. He never came to me and he didn't say, what was your workout split? How often did you squat? Like what did your Monday sets and reps look like? It was nothing like that. He said, how do you build this culture and this community? Do you have tips for trainers and coaches who are in a similar position who want to build something like that? Like if you could give them 3 or 4 tips to say, hey, if you do these pretty consistently and you be intentional about these things, you can build something like this. What would some of those tips and helpful tricks for them be?
I think number one is caring. Number one is caring. I understand that these individuals, this is not like us. They're not like us. Our whole lives revolve around fitness. Theirs doesn't. So whenever you care about other things other than fitness and you ask questions and you learn like every day, how is your body feeling? What did you eat last night? How did you feel after last workout? What are your plans today? And they get more engaged with you. And I found that like caring as simple as it sounds, it's way more than somebody coming in and we're like, all right, we're gonna do 70% back squats for 3 sets of 10. Now, I always have a plan with individuals, but if I say, all right, if my plan is to do a back squat with somebody and they come in and they're like, man, I'm so tired. Why would I want to shock their nervous system by loading up their spine and doing something? So I try and switch to cater to what they want along with what they need. And I would be a terrible trainer if I couldn't work their lower body other than just a back squat. So I always have a plan with them, but being able to be fluid in the exercises that you give to something that they like, to something that it shows like, thank you so much for, I was having these ankle issues, keeping my feet flat on the ground, like being able to do stuff like that on the go is a lot, I think, and that goes a long ways. I also think switching it up every time, sure, everybody's going to squat, everybody's going to lunge, everybody's going to do some type of pushing or pulling, but at the same time, it doesn't always have to be a bench press. It doesn't always have to be a back squat. It doesn't always have to be a forward walking lunge. Like if I can keep them engaged in having fun and changing their workouts while still reaching their goals, they don't get bored. So being fluid with the workouts, caring a lot, talking to them, being engaging. I think that is a big role in building that community.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good piece when it comes to the training and kind of like the nuance to it. You could have success by running a super linear program where they know every Monday's a squat and every Wednesday's a press and every Friday's a hinge, and you could have a ton of success with that.
For
But by 3 weeks in, if you're doing the same thing and people are bored, you're not going to get them to come back. I remember we had somebody tell me a couple months ago, they said, man, CT, I've been here for 6 months and I don't think we've done the same workout once. And
Awesome.
I said, I'm glad you recognize that. That was intentional. And then somebody heard that and said, we haven't even done the same warm up twice. And so it's like they come in, they know it's going to be a great session. They know they're going to work hard, but the kind of excitement around not knowing exactly what's going to go on. They might know, okay, for this phase this month, we're doing a squat variation on a Monday. They
Yeah.
know that we're hitting our lower body on Monday, but they don't know exactly what variation. That's what keeps them coming back, and that's what keeps them adapting and keeps them having fun.
Yeah, and I agree that that linear workout will probably give amazing results, but at the same time, like I said, this is not their whole life. They come here to be stress free, to not think about anything, to have fun, to enjoy everything. So if they come in and they're just like, I know today is deadlift day. I don't really feel like deadlifting. To be able to switch that up to hit their back in different ways and to hinge in different ways. It keeps them more motivated and enjoying the workout a lot more.
Yeah, and you, like you said, always great to have a plan, and then have to make sure to plan for the unexpected, and the good ones are able to make a really smooth transition away
Yep.
from what they wanted to do and into something that best fits the client in the moment. You had said something just a second ago when you started talking about that I want to hit on. You said they're not like us, and I think that's such an important point for not only coaches to hear, but also gym members to hear that they are not like us. And we don't mean that in a negative term.
I
What
don't know.
we mean is if everybody was like us and obsessed with nutrition and obsessed with fitness and obsessed with training, this would be a very boring place to be. Everybody always talking about their deadlift PR and their back squat. I mean, it just would be so boring. So when Storm says you're not like us, we're saying that in a positive way.
Yeah.
You have other things that you love. Fitness is just a small
Yeah.
piece of it. And most people know by now, 2026, that it's very important to have some type of exercise, fitness, health focused routine in their life to be able to help live longer and be more capable. And that's what I talk about all the time when talking specifically to dads, is like, we are training to be capable for our kids, to be able to grow up to play with our kids and our grandkids. And it's not necessarily to be able to back squat more than we ever have. And we might want that, but it's not necessarily the goal. So when we're saying people who are coming to see us and not like us, right? That means they have 45 minutes to an hour, two, three, maybe sometimes four times a week to be able to commit to training. If you are talking to an individual, or let's say even think about the training sessions we ran this morning, what are some of those things that we think everybody should be doing, that you, with all your experience and all your knowledge, what do you think some of those simple things are that people should be doing if they don't have their identity wrapped into their fitness and they just want to do a little more to be fit?
I love the saying movement is medicine. I love it. Uh, Regardless of what that movement is, I never will bad talk any other type of workouts because it is movement, it is medicine. I think that people just need to move a little bit more. And now the vast majority of my clients, they're sitting behind a desk. So getting up, getting outside, going on a bike ride, playing with your kids, going on a walk after dinner, getting up, once every other or once every hour and doing 10 to 15 push-ups just to get some blood flow, or bodyweight squats or a wall sit. Something that keeps you going, and keeps that nervous system, firing on all cylinders, I think is very underutilized in the world because, I have clients that will come in, like you said, 2, 3 days a week, and they always ask, like, "What should I do outside of here?" And I always say, "Whatever you want as long as it's moving." Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you want. If you like going surfing, go surfing. If you like going on a bike ride, go on a bike ride. If you like, taking your kid in the stroller and going on a walk, like get outside, do something. Just don't sit around. And I think that goes a long way. And I just being as active as I am, I don't realize how sedentary people actually are until I talk to them, until, they have the wearables that show me. And it's not like they mean to be or they try to be. It's just their job or their life. And just bringing awareness to that, I think really, really helps them. I'll text them outside of here and I'll say, get out, go for a light jog if they're joggers. Get out, go for, take your kids to the park, something like that. And a lot of people will text me with their activity and they're like, I know it was short, but I did, 20 minutes of stretching, 20 minutes of yoga, I did 40 minutes of body weight exercises today. And I can sense the pride that they feel whenever they're texting. So yeah, I think outside of the facility, just just any type of movement is great for the body and the mind.
And there's another piece too there that we come from high level sports backgrounds. So we were always training to be best prepared to be able to express our training on the field or on the court or in the pool or whatever it was we were training for. When you are no longer a competitive athlete and you're training, I think we tend to think that people want to train to get better at the sport or at the thing. But what it sounds like you're saying, and a thing that I'm trying to preach is like, we're just training so we can do the other things that we want to do and feel good while we do it.
Yes.
I'm not training so I can go run a marathon specifically. That might be something, that you, Storm, are doing, which again, we'll talk about the Ironman and all that. But we want people to move and be capable so they can do the things that they love to do, which is run around with their kids and go to the beach and maybe even take their shirt off when they're at the beach. But
Yeah.
you're saying movement is medicine. Like, man, I just want you to get out and I want you to feel how much your body has improved since you've been training. And then once you recognize that training supports everything else you want to do, then training becomes a non-negotiable in their lives. And when we have that identity shift of I am somebody who trains and makes healthy decisions, then we've got everything opened up to us and everything becomes easier and everything becomes simpler. And the days that we used to go chill on Netflix and drink a beer turn into going out to the beach and setting up a picnic and playing with the kids. And that's ultimately, I think, where we're trying to get people to go, the people who are not necessarily like us.
Yeah. There's never, all the years I've done this, there's never been a time where somebody said or sent me a message and they're like, I went on a walk, I feel like crap. Nobody's ever said that. They're like, I feel great. It re-energizes. I keep bringing it up, but it re-energizes that nervous system, and they feel better about themselves. And if you feel better about yourself, you're going to make better decisions whenever you are in the kitchen, whenever you are out and about. So I think it goes just small movements go a long way with
Yeah.
how sedentary we've become as a society.
Totally. And my favorite, if we want to call them testimonials or my favorite texts or my favorite comments that I get are the ones where individuals who I'm working with will say, hey, I just caddied 18 holes for my son and I walked 18 holes and it felt like I could have walked 18 more. There's no way I could have done that 30 pounds ago, right? It's like those things are what we're trying to connect between training and life. Like this becomes so much easier because you've committed to doing these things. And when, like you said, hey, I went out on a walk and when I got back, my knees didn't hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what we want to hear. We don't really care about your deadlift. We don't really care about your bench press. So you as an individual who's listening just need to understand the connection there. And that's all we want as coaches is we want to put you in a good position to be able to do, like we said, the things that you love, pain-free, and where you have a lot of energy and where you really feel like you can show up as the best version of yourself when you're out there. And especially if you have kids and grandkids like that to be able to take care of.
I think working out is so much more, like you keep saying, than just the number on the bar. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but in all my years of playing any sport that I've ever played, not a single person on another team has ever asked me how much I back squat or how much I deadlift. And I had to, whenever I was starting off and I was young, I kind of had to get away from that because the football world, it was all numbers in the weight room. And then I started to realize, I'm like, man, the weight room, we should be strong, but at the same time, we should feel good in everything that we do. And whenever we feel better, we perform better. And it was just kind of like an eye opener to me as far as using the weight room to reach goals, but not necessarily get fixated on specific numbers.
Yes, I mean, too many stories to tell where, and let me back up a little bit. We are sold as football players that the weight room is the thing to make you better on the sport, right? If you get bigger and stronger, you will be a better football player. There are so many times that I've ran into people who can't hang clean what I can clean, can't snatch, can't squat, can't reverse lunge, can't deadlift what I can do, can't jump as high as I can, and just dominated me on the football field. And enough of those things happened where I got to the point where I thought, hold on a second. None of what they're saying in the weight room is actually leading to success on the field. And I came from a program at Indiana University who, when I played before we were national champions 20 years ago, we were big and strong. It was that linear progression. We were always doing, it was always the same thing every single day. So we could track all the numbers and we had the board with the records and all that kind of stuff. And we used to get all hyped up about that. And it got us really strong. But we would go out there and lose to Ohio State by 1,000 points, Michigan would beat us by 250 points. You know what I mean? Not literally, but we would just get ran into the ground. And I remember thinking, even at that time, before I knew what I know now, whatever, 20, 25 years later, I remember thinking, like, hold on a second. Is it the weight room stuff that they're doing differently to make them better? Or is it something completely different? Or are they just way better athletes and coached way better? And once I started to have that realization, I took a totally different approach to the way that I would train other people. And I would stop saying things like, this is going to equal this, because we understand that training and fitness is so multifactorial and there are so many things that go into it. And so, like, who are we to sit back and say, oh yeah, the stronger you are, the better you are on the field, right? Like, the higher you jump, the more NIL money you're going to make. It's like, all of this is not true, but I feel like we have to feel like we're important. We're an important piece as strength coaches. And so it's nice to get out and become a dad. And like you said, you're a father of two, and now to realize that, okay, if I'm going to be talking about this stuff to my kids as they grow up, I want them to know that it's not this equals output on the field, this makes you a better athlete, but this is a thing that we do as a family. This is a thing that the Taylor family does, and we work hard and we exercise because we know it's going to help us live longer and happier and healthier. And I think if more people were talking about it like that, then we would have more people excited in fitness, and less people being as sedentary as you've kind of described that we've become. I do think there is still like a connection somewhere between, oh, I'm not an athlete, I don't need to train. And that's a big part of my message now is, I'm not training for any athletic qualities. I'm training so I can run around with my daughter as she wants to do that. And I can pick her up and throw her over my head, and I can toss her around in the water, and we can do all those things. Like, that's why her mom and I train. And I think that's such an important piece for guys who are our age, who have families, to be able to hear, because that's more important than any type of PR you're going to have in the weight room.
Yeah. And, people always come to me and they say, I need my kid to be a better baseball player, better basketball player, more agility, quicker footwork and everything. And they always want sports specific training. And sports specific training, that whole sentence just kills me, because to be better at your sport is going to be on the practice field. Now, the weight room is going
That's
to,
about as specific as you can get,
yeah, I train a couple of pro basketball players, and whenever I sit down with them and they look at me and they're like, you look young. How long have you been doing this? And I was like, I've been doing it for a while, but at the same time, I understand that I cannot make you a better basketball player. I can't. You're already better than any way that I can teach you. But what I can do is try and find energy leaks in your movement and correct those energy leaks. And then whatever you take out of those energy leaks, you take to the practice, or to the court, and then you will become better whenever you practice them. But whenever parents tell me about sports specific stuff, I'm just like, everybody in this gym is going to be pushing something. Everybody's going to be pulling. Everybody's going to be squatting, hinging. Just swinging a weight is not going to make you a better golfer.
Right.
And and yeah, that was kind of something. Whenever I first came in, I had to, yeah, my whole, like you said, that mind just switched, and then you're just like, whoa, and then you just wake up and you're like, whoa, now it's just like this whole other world than I thought it ever was before.
You get to the point where it's like, maybe we should just, like, everybody should just squat, everybody should hinge, everybody should lunge, everybody should focus on nutrition and these certain things. And then from there, that's how you deliver a really high value product to your 415 clients who have no interest in going out and playing on Sunday and being an NFL running back, but still get the enough specifics to where they can help improve their individual qualities that they need to build up, but also put them in a position just to be healthier and happier in the long run.
And a great example I have, I was working with this pro basketball guy, Patrick Young, played at Florida for 4 years. I went to the Pelicans, and I was working with him. Phenomenal athlete, just a freak of nature, and he's a real good friend of mine. And whenever he came in one day, he knew it was leg day. He didn't know what exercises, but he knew it was leg day. He came in, he was exhausted from practice, and his head is like down, and he sits down, and I'm like, what's going on? I could tell he was just down. And he's like, man, I'm just tired. And my mind went from, hey, but we got to do this. I already knew he worked out, and I know tomorrow's another day, but I know movement is better than nothing.
Mhm.
So I said, "Okay," and whenever somebody is like that, their nervous system is shot, and the
Yeah.
last thing I wanna do is put them under a barbell and try and have them squat heavy. So I'm like, "Pat, what do you wanna do today?" He's like, "Man, I would love to do some bis and tris." I said, "Let's do bis and tris." Dude, he sat up, smiled, his legs started kicking, he was in the best mood, and all of a sudden, it went from negative movement to positive movement, and we had a phenomenal workout together, and it was one of the best memories, and that mentality has stayed with me over the years, and I have practiced that on multiple people, and it's worked every single time.
Yeah, and, you have an interesting this is like a pretty good transition here. So 1:30, did you say, is the alarm? Okay. So Storm doesn't feel great at 2 a.m. every day. He has stuff on the program that he says he wants to do. You are the type of person to push through discomfort and train towards the things that you want to do. But for the people listening, when they have stuff on the program and they wake up and they're smoked and their kids didn't sleep well and they had poor nutrition the day before, what is your kind of best advice for them to be able to do? Like you said, movement is better than nothing. How would you guide people to kind of get the same experience that you were able to give to that athlete, but for their own lives? Like, what are some of the things that you would say that you would want them to do to guide them in the direction to be able to say, hey, man, it's still a win. You still got out of bed and did the thing consistently, which is what's going to lead to progress, but it doesn't have to be 100% all the time. Maybe the mindset, like the mindset behind that, and then also like actually tactical things that we can do. Like, what would you suggest for people who would get up and be underslept and have to get some work done and feel crummy? What are some of the things that you would suggest that they do when they get to the gym?
I try and tell people that think about the end of the workout. It's only 1 hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Time is going to go by anyways. It's going to go by anyways. You might as well do something productive. Now, if you are so tired and you're looking down at the program and you're like, man, I can't do this, just modify it. Modify it. Instead of
Yeah.
doing a 50-pound goblet squat, grab a 30-pound goblet squat and do less. Maybe go for a light little jog and get the body moving. Do a little bit longer of a warm up, and just modify it. But anything is better than nothing. And just think of how good you're going to feel at the end. And most of the time, whenever I tell people that, the workouts start off a little bit slower because they are tired, because they are exhausted, and then all of a sudden, man, they wake up and they're like, "Okay, I feel good now. Let me push a little bit harder," and then they end up getting a great workout.
That's just what I was thinking when you started saying that. Like, rarely will you have people still feel as bad as they did at the very end when they did at the beginning. It's like, let's just get moving. Dude, I got to tell myself that all the time coming out here in the garage. And it's funny when you have, you are in the gym all day. When you have all day to train, a lot of times you don't end up getting things done because things get in the way and you push things back. And that's why, I imagine you get up early. But there are plenty of times where I'm sitting here on this chair and I have a rack behind me and all the weights and the dumbbells over here. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do this at all. And I try to tell myself, just move, just start. Pick 3 exercises, a body weight exercise, a jump variation, something on the pull up bar, and just move. And 15 minutes later, I am ready to go and I'm firing and I end up having a great workout. But most of the time, it starts with me feeling pretty crummy before I get into it. Yeah. And I think it's good for people to know that like that happens all the time.
Time.
And it's not, we shouldn't judge ourselves based off of the good workouts. We should just judge ourselves off of the consistency and being able to stack days and stack wins because that ultimately is what's going to lead to progress in the long term.
I'll give you a ton of props, man. I have equipment in my garage, but I cannot work out at home. If the garage door is open and I'm trying to work out and I look and I'm like, man, those weeds need pulled. Like I should be, taking the dishes out of the dishwasher. I should be mowing. Like stuff needs to be done. But yeah, that just happened to me yesterday. So Sunday morning, I woke up really early, do my workout to clean the gym. I go back home, try and get the kids up. They wake up between 5 and 5:30. And then after they woke up, I already talked to my wife if I could go out on a long 50-mile bike ride. Went on a long 50-mile bike ride, came back home. We went to the beach. We ended up having a great day. But Sunday, man, I was exhausted. I was dehydrated, one of those dehydration headaches. And I was like, man, I do not feel like doing this workout. So I don't listen to music anymore just from listening to it all day long. So I listen to
Mhm.
podcasts or books or sometimes just silence. And I had my computer up and I was going through my schedule and I said, okay, I have people at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to make the schedule for each hour. After I make the schedule for that hour, I'm going to go over and I'm going to do pull ups until failure. I come back over. I'm going to do the 6 a.m. hour, pull ups until failure, 7 a.m. hour, pull ups until failure. And whenever I was done, I felt phenomenal. I was more awake and I could actually get that workout that I wanted done. But it was just like you said, it doesn't have to be like 3 sets of 8 with a minute rest in between.
Hmm.
Perfect world, but I mean, 90% of the time, whenever I wake up, I'm exhausted, and I come to the gym, and you just got to start moving. Just got to start moving.
Bro, and that's great advice for people who don't have a strict routine and maybe even don't even have a gym that they go to or have a gym that they go to, but aren't super consistent with it. Like if you just set an alarm every hour, every 45 minutes and get up and move, you're going to feel so much better. And you do that and you look at over through that time span and you doing a set of AMRAP pull-ups, I imagine is a pretty decent amount of pull-ups. So you end up accumulating 100 pull-ups, right? That you didn't even plan on doing. But after that, you feel pumped, shoulders feel good, arms feel good, lats are pumped, right? And then it's like, now I got the juice to be able to move forward and be productive. And that works literally in any setting.
Yeah, yeah,
Teachers, passing periods, knock out some bodyweight squats and some push-ups. And again, it's very easy for us to say because we prioritize all of that stuff. Right. So that doesn't go by me. I understand that it is a hard thing to do, but it's very simple. And I think even starting a process like that is super helpful. And you look back on the day, and if a teacher has 8 periods, let's say an elementary school teacher, and there's 8 passing periods, and they do 25 squats every time, they're knocking out 200 squats that they would have never done without it. And so much movement, brain's going to be sharper. They're going to feel better. They're going to have a smile on their face. It's just such a different
yeah.
outcome when
And
you can
there
commit to movement.
there is science behind that. And years ago, I've always had that kind of mindset. I've done that type of stuff, but Andrew Huberman. So I was listening to his podcast, and he called them exercise snacks, and I loved that because he was like, whenever I'm working at home, I set my alarm for every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, or if you're a beginner, every 15 minutes. When that alarm goes off, do push-ups until failure. Get back down, you do your work. Next alarm goes off, do a 1 minute wall sit. That get back to your work. That goes off. The next alarm goes off. Do 25 body weight squats, and you don't realize how much you can get done in that time period. Whenever you're sitting at a desk and you're feeling exhausted, and it wakes you up.
Totally. Totally. Let's go back to this
Yep.
alarm situation.
Yep.
All right, so it goes off. Talk me through the first hour. What is that like? Nobody wants to be up at that time. If anybody's up at that time, they're not getting up at that time. They're going in and going to bed at that time. So what does that look like for you? And as you're talking through that, like, are there some things that you've learned through this journey of getting up earlier and earlier and earlier, kind of as life cycles and you're going through these seasons? And if there are individuals who are listening that are in that, I would love for you to give any type of advice for people who are kind of looking to start a routine like that, which obviously doesn't have to be as intense as 1:30 in the morning. But talk us through what that process looks like for you. And then also as you go through that, let us know kind of like what you've learned and some things that could benefit other people from hearing your process.
I've learned so much from it, and as much as I hate it whenever I'm waking up, I love it so much. Nobody else is awake. Clients aren't awake. They're not texting me. My family's asleep. It is quiet. It's dark outside. It's just you and your own mind. So I already have everything laid out, the night before. And whenever I wake up, it takes me 10 minutes to get out of the house. And whenever I drive to work, I usually listen to a podcast or a book on the way to work. And usually the book just kind of gets my mind right. It's not like a fictional book. It's usually a biography of somebody overcoming something difficult.
Mm,
And listening to those stories as I'm on the way to the facility, it's like, this is not that bad. Like, waking up is not that bad.
yeah.
But then whenever I'm working out, I'll either continue to listen to those books or those podcasts, and it's just you versus you, and it's just a mindset that you have a conversation where throughout the busy hours of the day, 10, 11 hours a day, I am dealing with 40 plus clients who hit me with their problems, or you're talking nonstop. So as much as, and then you come home and you have basically a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old that talk to you nonstop, and you're trying to be present. So as exhausting as that time is to wake up, it is so valuable to me to just have that alone time and be with my own thoughts, because most of the time throughout the day, I cannot be with my own thoughts. I can't you can't just be with yourself. And you learn a lot about yourself whenever you're talking to yourself, and because there's nobody else to talk to.
Right. Keep checking your phone. Like, I have no text. Like, what? Nobody's texting me at this time. Yeah.
So, yeah, so as difficult as it is, it's kind of a non-negotiable for me because of how good it puts me in a or how much it puts me in a good mindset.
Yeah, and I've realized too since being home more often how valuable the 5 to 8 hour is in my day. My girls get up at 8, so if I can get out here by about 5:15 and have 2.5 uninterrupted hours, I can do so much great deep work because I know I'm not concerned about missing out. I'm not concerned about, like you said, like the weeds or the dishes. I'm not worried about any of that kind of stuff. It's the time that I've dedicated to myself. And again, I know people aren't up, so I know people aren't going to be texting me. You know, I know my wife is sleeping well, and I know she's with our baby, and everybody's all good. And then also the last couple hours in the evening have been really important for me recently too, because they go down and I get to come out here and continue my work, and again without concern of worrying about them, and I can really focus on what we need to do, and that makes those hours in the middle of the day so much easier to deal with. So if things come up, I'm not worried because I've already worked for a couple hours and already done the main things. The main things on my to-do list that were the priority to get done are generally done before 7 a.m. And again, talking to you, that doesn't sound that impressive, but it's something for me personally that I can keep consistent, and I've really tried to hold that time close and just really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do something like that.
I try and tell people, it's different for everybody. So me going to bed at, you know, between 8 and 8:30 at night and waking up at 1:30 is the exact same as if somebody's going to bed at midnight and waking up at 6. And it's just one of those things where or midnight and waking up at 5 something. I just value that time so much so I can be present for other time. And I know we with especially time with family, but I know there are times whenever you can't shy away from work and you can't get away from it. But at the same time, if I didn't prioritize that and I was doing a workout later on whenever I knew my kids were at home or my wife needs help around the house or something, it would kill me inside if I'm working out whenever they're home. And
Mhm.
I mean, like we spoke earlier, that dad guilt is real. I know everybody talks about a mom guilt, but that dad guilt is real. And if I wake up and I'm here for my first client and I don't work out, and then it's just a normal work day, and then I work out after that, and then I go home and I do more scheduling and more work, like I've taken those hours away from family, and I
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah. I have one more question about training, and then I want to transition into fatherhood a little bit. You recently competed and completed an Ironman. I mean, is that the wildest experience you've had with training and competition? I mean, I can't really think of other things that would be more intense than something like that.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense because I am not, by all means, although I complete an Ironman, I am not an endurance athlete. I just know I'm serious. I just know how not to quit. Uh, and I like to push my body to the point of where my mind is saying quit. And then you really find out a lot about yourself if you decide to pull the plug or if you keep going. And that's what I love. I'm not fast. I did not train properly for it. Mainly because it would take a lot of time away from the family and I wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah.
But I would never being out on the football field with your brothers. I mean, that to me is like my ultimate, like that's the best feeling in the entire world. The Ironman was close to it, as far as doing something I've never done before. I've never done an open water swim. I never rode my bike more than 70 miles. It was the first time I did more than a 10-mile run in over 5 months.
Wow.
And it was just the process of going through it and knowing that not too many people do it
Yeah.
and crossing that finish line with my wife there and with everybody cheering you on. I mean, it is a you're stuck in that moment for a long time, and
Okay.
it's very, very addictive. So, yeah,
Th-
it's pretty
there
wild.
was a video that you posted right around that time, and maybe it was right after you finished, but I think you were on the run, and then your wife and kids were there, right?
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
even like I know you can't see on the camera. I literally just got full body chills. Even saying that out loud, which is like tells you how dope fatherhood is. But like you were running, you had grinded through all of this, and then somewhere during the run, babies pop up, mom pops up, you still stopped and went over and said hi to them. Like, do you think about the effect that that has long term on your children
Dude,
to see them watch like their dad complete things like that?
I mean, that's kind of what keeps me going. I had a talk with my wife about it, and she's like, "Why do you do this stuff?" And
It's a great question.
outside of the
This is a
ob
really good question.
of what you and I did, or what you and I just discussed about, getting my mind in those wanting to quit spots and then not quitting, but making your family proud is, although my wife is like, "We're already proud of you." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's just different." I had no idea that my kids were gonna be there. I know Kayla was going to try and come down to watch me, and I'm like, "Don't worry about it." But then that's whenever I, like, looked over and I saw Lily was there and she was holding Axel, and just the look on Lily's face, just being like, "That's my dad." It's something that you can't describe.
Yeah.
I mean, words do not do it justice. And, months before, so January 31st, I did a 110-mile run here in Jacksonville, and it was through the night. And it
And you
was,
did that solo, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for some of it,
Okay.
like I had clients that came out and ran.
Like it wasn't an event.
It was an event. It
It
was
was an event. Okay. Okay.
an event.
Because I remember watching it on social media. I was like, "Dude, what a wild, awesome thing to do."
There were only 13 or 14 of us that, or sorry, 16 of us that signed up for it, and 11 dropped out. But it was one of those that at that time, it was the coldest day in Florida. It was 0 degrees, it was 50-mile-per-hour winds, and it just should not happen in Florida. But, going through that, and before we started, you have 24 hours to finish 84 miles, and then you have to be at the starting line at this massive marathon that goes on down here in Jacksonville. So did
To
that.
finish the last
Yeah,
26.
yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
to make it. And at that start line on the speaker, they're like, nobody's allowed to have their kids cross the finish line or anything like that. And I was like, yes. Like I make it through this 110, and we made it down to like the last quarter mile. And my wife was there, pushing our son in the stroller, holding Lily's hand. And Kayla's like, okay, well, I'm gonna take the kids over there so you can cross the finish line. I was like, no, Lily's coming with me, and cross the finish line with her. And it's just, seeing or having them see that stuff, and I can't explain the way it makes you feel,
Yeah.
because it's just the best feeling in the world, and I understand how it's so addictive, but I hope it puts an impact on them. I think it already has on our daughter, on Father's Day. There's a Father's Day event because school wasn't year round, but whenever they are in school and they're like, "Tell us about your dad." And on the piece of paper, it was like, "What does your dad do for, like, what is your dad's job? What does your dad do for a living?" And she put, "He does push-ups." A
Awesome.
and just, like, at such a young age, knowing that, or she wakes up and she's like, "Okay, mommy, it's time to work out. Let's do our squats, and let's do this, and let's do that." And yeah, it's pretty incredible to have them there with me whenever I'm
That's unbelievable. I just had that conversation. I think, like you said, it was Father's Day a month ago with my brother-in-law, my wife's sister's husband, and she did the same thing and filled the sheet out. And it was funny because I got a picture of what she had written, and it was, "What's Dad's favorite food?" And it was protein bars. And "What's Dad's favorite thing to do, for activity or whatever?" And she said yoga, and it was so sweet and genuine for me to see because she knows yoga means exercise.
Sure.
Right, and she's, like, speaking of yoga as in training, right? Because like, that's how she knows it, and I remember thinking and I asked him, like, "How many kids do you think have wrote those things for their dad?" Favorite food, pizza. Favorite food, mac and cheese, which again is not a problem, but we talk about, trying to leave kind of our knowledge and whatever it is, the legacy, whatever term you want to use, to our kids to be able to be better than we were and stronger and healthier than we were and live longer than we were. And, for them to recognize at such a young age, I think that's so exciting, and that's so cool that she would say, like, dad does push-ups,
Yeah.
and then you look at another dad's and it's, what does dad do for work? And it's, it's this, and it's like, oh, this guy is really active, right? So like you said, it's gotta be having an effect on her already.
Yeah.
And, there's always, people say it all the time, is like, they don't, listen to what you say. They just watch what you do. And I think the best thing that we can do is be healthy and have a great relationship with their mom, and show how much we care about each other, and also be able to commit time to physical pursuits for ourselves to be better. So we not only show up healthier and fitter and happier, but
Yeah.
that they see that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a big driving force behind what's behind me is the garage gym. Was when my wife got pregnant, I thought, okay, I want a place that I can go where I don't have to drive 20 minutes to a gym, drive 20 minutes back, miss out on all that time. I want a place for my wife to be able to just walk out and then do that, because I knew she wouldn't want to leave for too long. But then I also wanted a place that our daughter could just come back and play and be around and see things over and over again. And now she'll come out here and say, dad's working, right? When dad's like exercising or dad's training people. And I think that's so cool. And I think that's only a positive thing, only a positive precedence to set for our kids.
Bring them to the gym all the time. And, I wake up early still on the weekends to work out so I can be home whenever they wake up. And our daughter, whenever she wakes up, if whenever I'm home on the weekend, she comes up to me and she's like, Dad, can we go to the gym? Can we go to the gym? Because she incorporates the gym with being fun.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, let's load up the car. And then, my son will come and we'll set up a little obstacle course, and they're just running and jumping and playing. And they come whenever clients are here, and they're with clients, and people talk to them. So the gym is already such a part of their life, and it's such
Yeah.
a positive part of their life. They know coming to the gym and being active equals fun
Yeah.
and feel good, and that's what they want, and that's what they're going to remember.
You've got such a structure and a routine, which I believe you have to, and team sports definitely does that to you. It builds that, capacity and capability to be able to be structured. What do you do when things go wrong? What do you do when kids aren't sleeping well? What do you do when, wife needs you earlier? What do you do when, you show up to the gym, and being the owner of a gym, there's something going on, you have to deal with that. Like, how do you handle that? Not only literally, but also emotionally, when hey, I've got this big event that I'm training for, but this thing happened and I've got to fix that. Like, how are you able to work through that process? Because I imagine sometimes that's got to be hard.
I go to therapy.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
I do.
Yeah.
I see a therapist, because I don't do well with that stuff.
Yeah.
It weighs on me, but at the same time, I'll adjust accordingly. And I know, our son was colic for 6 months, and sleep was awful to the point where my wife is crying. Nobody's getting sleep in the house, but I know I'm going to be tired anyways. So whenever he's finally goes down, might be 11 or midnight. Whenever he wakes up, I got in the car and came to the gym.
Yeah.
And it's tough, and whenever something goes wrong with the gym, I still, or even at our house, AC just went out, and, financially, that's a big issue, and I try my hardest not to weigh on it and not to change things too drastically, but I'll adjust, and, maybe instead of doing a 2-hour workout on the weekend, it turns into a 45-minute workout in the garage at the house or something like that. So I try to adjust, and then I go see a professional to kind of reiterate, like, this is normal, this is life. And I try to pride myself in not letting bad stuff happen to me, or not letting the bad stuff that happens to me stop me from my core values, as far
Yeah.
as, what I put first in life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. I think having a strong identity towards being the person that you say you are, if that makes sense. I think that's important. Because I go through those phases where, like we talked about earlier, I work in a gym. I have a gym 10 feet from my house. Like I have no reason not to train, but I still have times in my life where I don't look forward to it at all. And it's not what I want to do. And then I have to tell myself, like, yo, this is the person. I tell myself that I'm this person. And it's so easy to have that conversation with yourself and look in the mirror and be like, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll just do it the next day. But I think I'm so strongly tied to the individual who does things to be better and to challenge himself and step outside of his comfort zone, because it's those are the things that made me successful in my past life as an athlete, and made me successful as a professional football player. And then early on in strength and conditioning, it was like I was just doing the things because I said that I was going to be a person who did this. And we see when other people are able to make that identity shift between, it's not just I go to the gym, but it's I do these things very consistently. It makes it harder to kind of talk yourself out of it and have those conversations. And dude, I can't say all that without saying like how inspired I've been by my wife recently, because she co-sleeps with our daughter, so they sleep next to each other all night. So if August wakes up, she wakes my wife up, and they roll around, and I'll be
Yeah,
out here, and I'll see them. I'll go get them in the morning, and I'll say, how was everything? How'd you guys sleep? And she's like, oh well, there was a 4-hour period in the middle of the night that we didn't sleep, and she'll just throw clothes on and come out to the gym and work out. And I'm always like, dude, you can take, dude, I say that with love. Like
right.
you could take the day off, but she doesn't. And I've been so inspired, dude, and so moved by the fact that she's like, no matter what, however I feel, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to work out.
Yeah,
And for somebody who's been doing, working out has been my life for almost 30 years now. Like I get inspiration from her to know that like she's doing the thing that I say that I'm the best at, that like this is the thing that I do. And if I think I have excuses, she has way more things that she could use. She didn't sleep at all. August was sick. She was up all night coughing and, changing diapers and doing all this stuff. And she still goes out and trains. And I'm just like so inspired by her. And it's great to have people like that around you just to motivate you to be better. And so kind of wrapping that thought up, if you are out there looking for somebody, it's like that's why investing in a coach is so important, because we want you to be that person that you say you are. And we are willing to do the things to be able to help you to get there, but you also have to commit to doing
right.
the work when it's time to do that. But if you can find a guy like Storm, or if you can find a guy like me or somebody or you're close with who can push you, it's like find that person, because we always do better in a group and always do better with accountability. And a reason why I was so drawn to pursue the online training model was because I could reach people outside of the tiny city of like Beechwood, Ohio, which I've been in for the last 3 years, but because I know I do better in a group.
Yeah,
And I want people holding me accountable. And if it's my wife who I'm inspired by and she's one person and she goes out there, how much more motivated would I be if I've got 10 guys
yeah,
in a group chat talking to each other about picking each other up and doing the things they don't want to do? And I just think that's such an important piece. So like you really got to, if you're struggling, if you're out there and you're struggling with your fitness, you got to find a tribe. You got to find your people who can push you and support you through the whole process. And you don't have to go do an Ironman. You don't have to be as wild as Storm and do all this kind of stuff. But like just to get started on that, I think a great thing to do is be able to just find a tribe, find a group who can push you to be better.
yeah. And I think everything that you just explained goes back to one of our first thoughts of the clients that come in, and that reliability, and that they know I'm going to be here regardless of the situation. You know, I had a blood clot in my leg earlier this year, and they're like, "You need to go to the ER." And I was like, "I'll do it after we get done training." And or I went to the Penn State Notre, and I'm not recommending that at all. That's just.
Seek medical advice.
But I went to the Penn State Notre Dame football game in Miami, and it was on a Thursday night. Flew back into Jacksonville, landed at like 1 a.m. Right from the airport, I came right to the gym, no sleep. And I do the Ironman, or I do that 110-mile run, and I'm still here the next day. So it's way, in my opinion, because of what I have seen, it's way easier for those early clients, or even like the 9, 10, 11 o'clock clients, that they're like, I don't feel like going, but I made this commitment to Storm, and I know he's not going to cancel on me. And I know he said he's going to be there, and he has not let me down for the last 13, 14 years, like having somebody with your mindset of doing what you say you're going to do, it's contagious and other people will feed off of that. And then you're around them long enough and then they start making less excuses because their excuses don't sound great anymore. Doesn't sound great to them, doesn't sound great to anybody. And they're just like, I was going to quit today, but or I was going to cancel today, but I'm so happy I didn't. And I knew you would be disappointed if I did. And so it's that mindset of doing what you say you're going to do. I think that brings people around you and kind of builds that tribe that you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. I want you to take me back 5 years ago in September. Your daughter was born, and
August.
I'm sorry, August. And so you came from doing whatever you wanted to do, whenever you wanted to do it, all of these personal and financial, physical pursuits and emotional and spiritual pursuits, whatever the journey you were on. And that came to a halt. Your daughter was born. 5 years later, did you see it being like this? Did you see it being different? Like what's something that you would say to Storm 5 years ago when your daughter was born to make sure that you stayed on this path to be the dad that you are today?
I would probably tell myself to not be as hard on myself. Not saying that in a way of, hey, you're gonna wake up at 1:30 in the morning. You got to do that. Like, don't be hard on yourself in that aspect. But the give yourself a little bit of leeway to, it's okay to cut a workout a little bit short. It's okay to work out in the garage. You don't have to necessarily make that schedule at this time. You could do it tomorrow morning. But at that time, I was so stuck on a schedule that whenever my life changed drastically like that, I was so hard on myself, and
Mhm.
it was a difficult time, not in like a bad way, but just dealing with myself because I am so structured that whenever that structure gets thrown off for whatever reason, I'm way too hard on myself. But even if it could be a small thing, and I would just sweat it and just yeah, I guess just not be so hard on yourself and just enjoy what is in front of you and not worry, not sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point, man. The difficulty that I have is that doing all of those things is what made me successful in the first place.
Yeah,
And I don't I've said now twice on this podcast that I'm successful. What I mean is, like, that's the thing that got me from walk on to scholarship. That's the thing that got me from an amateur football player to professional football player. That's the thing that, led to a lot of positive outcomes.
yeah.
And as soon as we become parents, it's hard to shift that off because you want to be as present as possible and you want to be able to be there for your wife and for your family at all times, but you can't get away from the thing that made you you in the first place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a hard thing that I had to battle early on, was trying to figure out, like, how much of this that I think is positive for me is actually more negative for me in this season, because I'm not giving myself grace, because my day didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. Maybe I was showing up as a different father or a different husband that I didn't intend to be. And learning that process is hard. And people will say, "Oh yeah, your life's going to change. Oh yeah, you're not going to sleep. Oh yeah, it's things like that." But changing, like, the individual who you are is, I think, the hardest part of the entire process. And I've meditated and prayed on it enough to understand that this is the direction that we need to be going, that I need to be going to become better. But it really is hard in those moments where, you're trying to battle between the person you were and the person who you're supposed to become. Go through a lot of challenges there. And like you said, giving yourself grace and even talking to somebody, talking to a professional, and understanding that this is okay.
Yeah.
But this is why I love having these conversations with fathers, is because you've been through it longer than I have. And it's not like, after now that you have a 5-year-old, that you're in bad shape and that you have no money and that you're unsuccessful and that you hate your family, right? It's like you have more love than ever,
Yeah.
right? You're surrounded by more people who care about you. You have more of a reason and an intent to do positive things.
You think it's
But
impossible to love your wife anymore until you see them become a parent.
my
You're
gosh,
Man,
man.
I made the right decision with this person
Yeah.
in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember after my wife gave birth, I thought I married a superhero, which I may have. When you're a part of that process and you see that happen and you see what they go through, like, I'm like, bro, I've been through some hard stuff. I don't know if I could have done that.
I've said that to my wife and to women that, go through that process. It's like women are superheroes whenever they do that. It's the
Oh my
most
gosh.
selfless thing a human can do, and to see what they go through, just like, "Whoa, this is," and then a as soon as it's done, man, they just forget everything that just happened, and their whole life is this little being now. Yeah.
Yeah, man, just to see them grow. I put out a post the other day that, like, how cool it is to be able to watch not only you grow as a father and as a person, but watch the person you love the most grow and watch your babies grow. It is so cool, but it's hard because this life is like this. Right? It's like you're okay, more money. I need to do this, more activities. We got to get outside. We got to stay inside. I got to optimize my sleep. I got to get enough protein. I got to do. But like when you can step back and look at it and be like, whoa, like we did this.
Yeah.
Like it really is, it really grounds you as a human being. And again, like I said earlier, like I truly believe coming from somebody who never wanted a family, I was so independent. I had nieces and nephews who I
I
love
was
dearly.
with you.
Yeah, right. I was like, I never, dude. Why would I want that type of commitment? Like, I want to be able to go do stuff when I want to go do stuff, bro. The moment that our girl was born, I thought I might never leave this house, dude. I might just hang with this girl, with these two girls for forever and enjoy it. And it's like those are the things that I don't feel like I hear enough. What's cool is millennial dads now are kind of like getting popular, right? You see it a lot on social media, like, yeah, you're changing diapers and you're showing up and you're doing, and so it's cool to be able to hear that, but I don't think anybody had said, "Yo, this is the dopest thing you'll ever do." Like, you're not gonna ever wanna do anything else.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember talking to a couple dads who were like, "Oh, my buddies went out on a boat for the 4th of July. Like, I sure would have loved to do that." And then now at 4th of July, I'm like, "Bro, I just wanna sit in my backyard and start a fire and, like, chill with my homies."
I'm with you. I used to play golf once a week, and now it's to the point where people invite me to play golf, and I'm like, "You know what? Yeah, let me ask my wife." I don't even ask my wife. I'm just like, "I just don't want to."
Yeah.
I want to, but I wanna go home. I wanna be home. So now it has gone
Yeah.
from once a week to once a quarter, but I'm okay with that. But, to go along with what we were talking about, not to backtrack too much, but, changing who you are or your life changes and having to switch from one mindset to another mindset. I had a massively difficult time with that, and it sounds like you did too, and I know a lot of fathers, a lot of mothers do the exact same. But I think it's important to not forget who you are and still incorporate that within the new life that you have created. And I know, running a facility, it's this weird guilt that whenever I'm at home, I feel like I'm not doing enough for the gym. And then whenever I'm at the gym, I feel like I should be at home with the family. And it's just this massive, and then the workouts and doing the stuff that I do, and I could sense resentment with Kayla as far as, my schedule, or I know I'm a lot more present than a lot of parents, but those long weekend workouts and things like that. Although I'm still back by 6 a.m., I could still sense this resentment. So something powerful that I held on to and it helped Kayla a lot understanding me is that I was like, why don't you come to my therapist with me? So I asked the therapist, can Kayla come? I think I don't do a good enough job with communicating my feelings. I just never have been. And I've been working on it. But, going to the therapist, and then whenever Kayla is explaining herself and explaining it in her eyes, the therapist was like, you know what? Let me stop you there. The person that you fell in love with, the person that you decided to have kids with, the person that you were like, this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. Who was that person? And it switched with Kayla. She's like, wow, like I can't ask him to change because if he changes, I might not, that's not who I fell in love with.
Yeah.
And it kind of opened her eyes. It opened my eyes as far as not needing to change, just shifting it slightly.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not going out to be the best Ironman athlete in the world, but I need a physical challenge. I need something to work towards. It's just my personality. I'm not going to be the best. I understand that, but just working towards something is just in my DNA that I have to do. And she understands that now. So instead of resenting me for it, now it's I wake up in the morning. She's like, "Hey, I hope you have a great workout," instead of, "When are you going to be home?"
Yeah.
So it was just going back a little bit. I knew
Totally.
that that helped a lot of that helped us a lot. So I just wanted to get that out there in case anybody listens and they're like, I don't have to change my entire mindset or my
Yeah.
entire what made me who I am because that's who my wife fell in love with. So yeah,
Yeah, that's such a great point. I do specifically remember my therapist saying when I was asking very early on in the process, like, what can I do, man? You feel helpless as a dad a lot early on. And some people say, "Oh, you won't be able to do anything anyway," but guys like us, it's like, all right, what can you know what I mean? Can I do? I can't feed her, but can I do? And trying to figure out the things that we can do that we can provide support. And I remember her saying, "The greatest gift you can give her is time." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Right. And it's like, I already want to spend time with my daughter, but how can we figure it out to try to give our wives time to be able to do the things that they want to pursue as well? So, the exact same situation you're talking about, but just flipped roles, and then when we were able to free up some time so she could go back and do the things that she loves and she can get into training again and she can get back to dancing. And dancing is my favorite thing in the world to watch her do. It's like, I just fall in love with her over and over again when I watch her dance. And she was able to do that. And just to see how she like started to get herself back,
yeah,
and the heart came back and the smile came back was like, man, I just want to be, how do I provide time and money and effort? And you know what I mean? It's like, I wish there were 48 hours in a day,
me too.
work 12, take our daughter for 12, give 12 to my wife. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a battle that we're always trying to kind of struggle and figure out. But like you said, we don't want to change them. They don't want to change us. Things need to change to be able to make sure it works. But that's why you married that person, because you truly believe that you two would be able to make this family, and you guys would be able to work through it and be able to make it work. And it's so cool when I hear people talk about how supportive their wife is, or wives here talk about how supportive their husband is, because it's like you don't hear that all the time.
Yeah,
It's, "Oh, yeah, she didn't let me do," or, "Oh, he didn't let me," or, "He's out with his boys." And so it's like I'm always trying to frame it the other way, because I think that's so important. It's like, give them what they need, provide what they need, and we do the same thing. And then our kids will be better because of that.
yeah, yeah. I think so too. And about 3 weekends ago, Kayla got together with about 3 of her real good girlfriends, and they went on a girls' trip, and, she was having a hard time leaving the kids. It wasn't the first time, but it was just, all the help with the kids fell through, and she was leaving on a Friday morning. We had about 3 people that said that they would watch our kids while I was at work until I got done work. All 3 fell through,
Oh,
and, our son was sick that night, and she was, like, crying. She was like, "Is this the universe telling me not to go?" And I was like, you need this. You need this. Whatever I can do, drive them to the gym. It's going to be busy, but at the same time, like you said you were going to do it. You need this time away. You need to recharge. You need to be with your friends. So she drove them to the gym, and I watched them as I was training, and they were having a good time trying to do burpees with clients, and clients loved it. And we had a great weekend together, and she had a great weekend, and she was very grateful. And the amount of people that I know that would just cancel, or the husband wouldn't do something like that, or they wouldn't
mhm.
sacrifice for their significant other, because I know she would do the exact same thing for me because she has. And yeah, it's being a parent is so difficult, but it is so easy if you're with a good partner. And
Yeah,
whenever you guys both understand each other, it's sure you have your ups and downs, but the ups are going to be way, way better than
yeah,
downs. So yeah,
totally. Couple more questions, man. One, I just had it. It was going to be a good one. Okay, I've been a father for almost 2 years. You've been a father for almost five. Outside of the idea of giving yourself a little more grace and not being as hard on yourself, what advice would you give to me as a father who's getting ready to go into this like 2-year-old stage, right? As I'm like watching my daughter become an actual human being, which I remember the first time seeing, like, opening or like recognizing things and saying mama and dada, and, like having these massive moments where you realize that, like, yo, this is a human who is going to grow up,
yeah,
and as you kind of get through the phases, and 6 months to 8 months, I just absolutely loved. But then she turned a year and I'm like, oh my gosh, is incredible. Then she turned a year and a half, and now she's like the best ever. This is like an unbelievable time. And I miss those early days and I look forward to the future, but I'm not in a big rush. You know, you've got a 5-year-old, an almost 5 and an almost 2-year-old.
Yeah.
I've got an almost 2-year-old. Do you have any advice for me as I'm navigating this process of fatherhood for the first time?
I mean, it sounds like you're an incredible father. It sounds like your wife is an incredible mother. You know, it makes it so, and I don't know how you guys parent. Everybody is a little bit different, but Kayla and I are not umbrella parents, and we are not snowplow parents of like clearing the path. So we try to let them figure out everything by themselves and just watch and make sure that they don't do anything really dumb. But just watch, and whenever they try something and then they figure it out, or they do something risky and they end up falling and hurt themselves and they learn not to do it again. You know, I see so many parents that are just overbearing, and this is such a massive part in their lives to figure out, you know, what they can and can't do. And their brains are growing. Every day is different. And I just think that if more people would let them be individuals
Yeah.
at a young age, they learn a lot more. I mean, in the beginning, and I don't know how this was with you, but our word basically, we just kept telling them no all the time. We're like, "No, you cannot do that." And then they would try something else and we would let them do everything, but we didn't do a ton for them. If Lily wanted to try swimming, I'm like, "All right, let me get in the pool." We know she's just gonna sink, but try it. Like,
Yeah.
and I just letting them be themselves and just develop that their own personalities, I think was some of the best advice and some of the best parenting that we could have that we could have done and kind of cooperated with each other with.
That's awesome. Yeah, I came into this as like the dad who was never going to do the thing for his daughter, and she was going to figure it out, and she was going to pick things up, and she was going to do the chores, and when she fell, I wasn't going to pick her up. Bro, I have turned out to be the complete opposite.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to clean up the downstairs to get ready to go upstairs. I'm cleaning her kitchen up. I'm getting
Yeah.
her cars together. Mom's like, "Dad, will you let her do that? She can do that."
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on a second. I said I was gonna be the guy who would and she's like, dude, she's good. She can do it. So I gotta keep reminding myself that. And there are times where I feel like I do a better job where I let her explore and play on her own and be independent. And then I feel like there are times where I
Well,
help a
yeah,
little too much.
of course. And I mean, I do the exact same thing. I think everybody does. And it's again, that's a personal issue with me is because I'm so OCD, and so is my wife of how things are picked up, but they're trying. And it's like, no, it doesn't do that. Like this is where, you know, if all the fruit goes into this little basket, like that's her way of cleaning up and she understood the process of cleaning up. I can't be like, no, it doesn't go here, it goes up here. Like is actually cleaning up. But yeah, so I'm the same as you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm the same way, man. This goes here. This has got to go here. And it's like, oh, you didn't put the rubber band around it. It's like, all right, bro, relax. And then I see the videos that are like, hey, there's going to be a time where your house is clean and it's going to be quiet. And I'm like, oh, dude, I get through 10 seconds of those videos on social media and I swipe off. But I have to remind myself that like this doesn't have to be clean today. I can be okay. I can survive. So last question, bro. I appreciate, dude, all your time and knowledge and wisdom, and always good catching up with you. And this is my favorite question of the podcast, and really like a big anchor to the reason that I started this. I have this vision in years to come that our daughter will come across these conversations and think it's cool that dad was kind of recording this part of my life, in this process, and mom and I working through parenthood for the first time and navigating being an entrepreneur and staying at home and just, her recognizing some of the sacrifices that we made. As I have two parents who I always thought would be so cool if I could look back and see my dad at 40 years old and be like, oh, that's what you were doing? Like, oh, you were doing that when you were 35. And with modern technology, it's much easier now than it was then. Right. But I don't have anything like that I could look back for my parents. So I want our daughter to have something like that. And my hope is that the same thing for your kids, that they can look back and watch this years to come and say, oh, I was only 5 years old. Those are the things I was doing. Oh yeah, I remember running across the finish line with dad. Like I remember him, that process when they're whatever teenagers or even older and have their own family, which is even a crazier thing to think about. But as they're watching it, let's say 20 years from now, what are some of the things that you hope your kids remember and cherish about their time with their father? Like, what are some of the things that when they watch, they're like, yep, that was my dad. He did that. He taught me this. What are some of those things that you hope kind of rub off on them and that they remember about you?
I hope that they always remember me being present. I hope that they always remember me being physical with them as far as going outside and playing, as far as, being in the playroom and playing. And I hope that they remember, the sacrifice that their mom and myself have committed basically so that they could have this great life that I hope that they have. I hope they remember that we instilled kindness because they are the two sweetest kids in the world. And the world needs a lot more, nice individuals.
Right.
And I just hope that they remember me always being there for them whenever they needed something, whenever they needed to learn how to read a book, whenever they wanted to learn how to draw a rabbit, right before bedtime, sitting at the table. I hope they remember all those small details because, between you and I don't remember that stuff.
Yeah.
I my parents were there, but I don't remember that. So I'm trying to create these memories with them where they consider me, a great, present, fun, loving, caring father and husband.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Where can people find you if they're interested in connecting with you on social media or at your facility?
So my Instagram is just my name, Storm_Woerner. Our facility is Excel Performance, and it's spelled XCEL Performance, and it's in Jacksonville Beach. We're not big on social media. We're unfortunately, my business partner and I, we're not super tech savvy, so it takes me a year to make any type of post. But yeah,
Awesome, bro. I appreciate you being on and thank you everybody listening. This has been the Athletic Dad Podcast, again, CT along with Storm. Again, if you want to connect with him, all of his information will be below in the comment section underneath wherever you're watching the video, whether it's on, Spotify or whether it's on YouTube. You'll be able to connect with him there, and you can always connect with me through the same social mediums. But I asked three things at the end of every podcast, and this has been consistent, man, for like 6 years, and I still think these three things are so important. So number one, I want everybody out there who's listening to continue to practice gratitude. We're really blessed to be in the situation we're in right now and to be able to have time to spend listening to a conversation like this. We are truly blessed. So please continue to practice gratitude. If you have loved ones around, please tell them that you love them as often as you can, because I have fears that there will be days that my daughter does not want to hear how much I love her. So, I try every single day, and I think it's so important to be intentional about telling the people that you love how much you love them. And then finally, I'm not only a big fan of caffeine, and I think it's important to live your life stimulated. Storm, not as big of a fan of caffeine, but if you're not stimulating that way,
I I love caffeine. Trust me, I
yeah,
love it.
yeah,
I just
you
don't.
just got to be careful. Yeah,
But
getting up at or going to bed at 8. But you only got one life to live, so live it stimulated, whether it be physically or mentally, emotionally. Stimulate yourself, challenge yourself, continue to grow. Appreciate you guys listening. We will catch you on the next episode of the Athletic Dad Podcast.
thank you.